and welcome back to another deck factory. This is a type of video we have not done in a while, so let's refresh on exactly what it is. We're going to pick one card. Typically, I like to pick unloved cards, or cards that we don't normally play with a lot, and then kind of break it down and see if we can make it work. Build a deck around it and see what can go on. Now, today we are going to be focusing on Guardians of the Galaxy, which is a team up card. It's a 2-cost team support, and this is actually kind of inspired by one of the member requested decks that I got this month from the Olafs, and they asked to do Guardians of the Galaxy and build a deck around it, and I was like, that's a great option for a deck factory video, and so here we are. So let's talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, I do think that this is probably one of the worst, if not the worst, team card in the game. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments, but I think that this is the worst. So it's going to be really fun to build around. What does it do? So it's a 2-cost support that says that if every single one of the characters you control has the Guardian trait, then you get to draw a card after you play an upgrade on an ally. So basically, it's a very, very limited resource generator. So whenever you play an ally onto an ally, whenever you play a upgrade onto an ally, you get to draw a card. Most of the upgrades in the game that you can play on allies are 1 cost, so it's effectively cutting that cost in half, or really it's giving you a rebate on the card that you paid for using that card. There is a pretty high future potential here though, because if we get more 0-cost upgrades, and we kind of have with the advanced suit, and we have like the honorary cards, those are 0-cost upgrades, and so there you're going 1 for 1 card. You're playing a card and you're getting 1 back. A 0-cost card is a 1 effective cost card, and so you basically get to play that card for free. So if we get more 0-cost upgrades that can go onto Guardian characters, now it's getting kind of interesting, because that is the best value for us. But as of now, we don't have a lot of those, and so we're going to be focusing on the upgrades that we do have, and we do have a lot of really cool Guardian locked upgrades like Laser Blaster, Energy Spear, Comms Implant, and there's some other ones, and then we have kind of the generic upgrades, Sidearm, Reinforced Suit, that can go on any type of ally, including Guardians. And so we will be playing around with those. So it feels so close to being a really, really cool card. It just feels like it's a lot to set up. 2 effective costs, you have to have it onto the table. Everyone has to be a Guardian, so it does lock you into Guardian allies, which they're pretty good. I mean, don't get me wrong, like Guardian allies are really good, and most of the Guardian allies do want to hang around for a while, so it naturally makes sense to want to put upgrades on them to facilitate them being around, giving them more health, making their activations more powerful. So it is good. It just is a lot to set up, and pretty much now that we have build support, it's a little bit easier because it is a support that is 3 or less. So it's effectively having another copy of Guardians of the Galaxy in your deck with build support, so you can get it out a little bit easier. And then once you do get that ball rolling, you're golden. The other weird thing about this, and the timing around kind of getting this onto the table versus playing your allies, is if you are running a Guardians of the Galaxy deck where you want to be playing allies once Guardians of the Galaxy is out, it feels a little bad to be playing upgrades on allies before Guardians of the Galaxy is out, because you're not necessarily getting the rebate or the benefit that you would be getting if you already had that resource generator on the table. But I think that's just a trap that I will fall into, and I fall into pretty frequently. And so if Guardians is on the bottom of your deck, sometimes I can feel a little bit bad about playing maybe like a Rocket or a Gamora, souping them up, but then not getting that card draw while you soup them up. So that is something to think about. All right, I'm going to say that's something that I think about, and it's not necessarily something that I am going to build all around. So I think any deck that builds for Guardians of the Galaxy does not need to forego everything in order to make Guardians of the Galaxy work. It is a blue card. It is leadership, and so my mind goes to Yondu, and I think that this was kind of the intent when they built this card. Yondu is a 4-cost Guardian ally that does not take any consequential damage when he is attacking. So whenever we throw laser blasters or we throw sidearms onto him and pump up that attack, now we can start getting just a significant amount of damage all game. It's effectively a attack team that never runs out, right? You can just throw damage the entire game, and every single time we play an upgrade on him, we do get to draw a card. The problem here is Yondu is pretty expensive. Yondu is a 4 cost, and then every single most upgrades, 95% of the upgrades are going to cost 2 effective cards to put onto Yondu, so he can be slow. Guardians of the Galaxy is also pretty slow, and so I think in practice, Yondu most of the time has fallen short. That being said, we are going to be using Yondu in our deck today. What's really interesting about this card, and this is actually something that I found out while I was making this video and like researching for the video, you don't have to play the upgrade on your ally. So the way that the card is written is if every single character you control is a guardian, whenever you play a upgrade on an ally. So you can have a deck, and I do want to build this deck, where it's like basically just a support deck for all allies at the table. Everyone else can be running X-Men or whatever, and you just load your deck, not with allies, maybe a couple of them, but a ton of attachments, and just pass out the attachments. You pass out trainings to the X-Men player, and you get to draw a card whenever you do that. So only your allies have to be guardians. And then you can throw the Avenger upgrades onto the Avengers that maybe the Captain America player is running. So I thought that was kind of fun. I think it's a kind of an interesting build. Something that I didn't really notice before. I thought that you had to play it on your own ally, but that is not the case. And so I do want to see a deck, or maybe even build a deck. That may be something that I would bring to a Con of Heroes. That would be a good one. Anyways, sorry, I got sidetracked, but I thought that was really interesting and something that I noticed now that I'm playing a little bit more multiplayer. And I thought that would be a really fun one to kind of tinker around with, pun included, or intended included. There are a decent amount of Guardian allies in the game. There are a couple of them that work a little bit better with this than anybody else, and I think the best hero in the game for Guardians of the Galaxy is Star-Lord. So Star-Lord gets around kind of the restriction of the team card because Star-Lord makes every single ally he controls a guardian. And so no matter what, you get to draw a card on anything that you play. And then the classic combo here is to run the Iron Man Avenger blue ally that reduces the cost of every single upgrade you play by 1, so effectively drew to 0. So you get to play a card, then draw a card. If you have not played this deck, play it. It is S tier. It is so much fun. In the prompt for the deck factory, their deck request, it was said that we do not want to be using Star-Lord for this deck, and so we are going to be using someone else. But I did want to call out that Star-Lord, one, he can play Iron Man very, very efficiently with his ability, what can go wrong, and then Iron Man, you just draw all the cards, and then you have Iron Man sitting there hitting for like 7. It is a blast. One of the other heroes that I thought about building was for Groot, and Groot is here mainly because with Voltron allies, a lot of the times you're spending a lot of your resources in order to soup up your Voltrons, which means that you are not playing allies that can like chump block, or you're not putting as many resources into protecting your health. Groot kind of does that. That is what Groot does. Groot just doesn't die. And so Groot can really kind of support his Voltron allies by defending or using his growth counters to kind of protect his allies. The other one that I thought would be and could be really cool is Rocket, because Rocket can tinker his upgrades. So I did a video, I don't quite remember when, maybe it was with the Rocket hero spotlights that I was doing, where I built a leadership deck that was all about playing upgrades and then tinkering those upgrades. And I especially like to do it with Iron Man as well, so you can play an upgrade on Iron Man. If it's a tech upgrade, you can then tinker it and you just get a ton of card draw. I never did that with Guardians of the Galaxy, but if you throw Guardians of the Galaxy in your deck, throw an honorary Guardian onto Iron Man, then you can kind of get some card draw into what? I don't know. I think that's kind of the issue there. But I thought Rocket could be kind of fun because you can target some of those upgrades to tinker. And so that would be something that I am interested in seeing. And so if you build a Rocket deck, make sure you drop it in the comments, because Rocket is just a blast. But the hero that I did settle on, and what we're going to be building for today is going to be Venom. And we're going to use Venom because of a couple of reasons. He has a lot of resources. He has an immediate resource generator by taking a damage with his symbiotic bond ability, so he can play a lot of these upgrades without needing to spend all of the resources. So 1 cost upgrade, 2 effective cost. Typically it's 2 cards. Take a damage, now it's just that card, and we can draw a card back. So we do get we get over that little hump of, it kind of feels bad. It's not necessarily a rebate. It feels like we are replenishing the 1 card in our hand, but also he can defend just like Groot, because once we have his pistols on the table, he can start defending for 4, and we can protect our Voltron allies. So there's a couple other tricks, but we're going to save that for when we're talking about the deck. So let's hop down to the table and see what we can do with Venom. Alrighty, welcome to the table. I forgot how much fun how much I enjoy these videos, and so I may be doing some more of them because I like building decks and they're just fun to talk through. So this is a Venom deck. This is going to be using the Space Knight in our game and trying to utilize Guardians of the Galaxy to a beneficial effect. I'm not going to say the maximum effect because I do think that it's going to be hard to get any more efficient than it is with Star-Lord. So Guardians of the Galaxy with Venom, we do have that Guardian trait, so we are already there with the Guardians of the Galaxy. The prereq of needing Guardians. Now our Guardian lineup is going to be not all of the Guardians. We are not playing all of the Guardians in the game. There are a couple that we're leaving out, but we do have Drax. We have Gamora. Gamora is going to be one of our main targets. I think Gamora is one of the better allies in the game because after she attacks or thwarts, we get to discard the top card of your deck, or discard cards from the top card of your deck until you get a event. Add that to your hand. Venom likes his events. Venom's events do a lot of status lock, and so that's going to help also protect our allies on the table here. We've got Rocket, who is fantastic for minion control because whenever he attacks a minion, he gets +3 attack and it gains overkill. So he's going to go up to a 4 attack, which is going to help with the minion. So Drax kind of likes to take on the villain face to face. Rocket is going to go right at those minions. And then we've got, even though I said we probably wouldn't, we've got Yondu, or even though I said he was pretty expensive. He's good. He's good. He's just not as efficient as some of our other friends. But Yondu, he gains ranged, and so he ignores retaliate. He takes no damage on his consequential. So if we can pump that attack up, we're feeling pretty good. He also has a 2 thwart, which is pretty nice. So Yondu is going to be one of our main allies on the table. Gamora is probably going to be one of our main allies on the table. We've got another main ally, but first we're going to talk about Major Victory. This is a ally. I started that train of thought, and I apologize. Mainly, let me start kind of breaking these down into 2 different categories here. So Yondu and Gamora are going to be allies that we do not want to have leaving the table. Drax, Rocket, and Major Victory are characters that we can chump block, or we don't necessarily worry too much about taking them out because 1, they're not as expensive, and 2, they're just not as good as these. And so Major Victory, we definitely want to run Major Victory off the table because whenever he is defeated, we get to ready a friendly Guardian character, which could be Gamora, Yondu, Venom, anybody else. But here's the kicker, the last ally, the last one that we're going to keep on the table as long as possible is Iron Man. Iron Man is not a Guardian, not yet at least, but Iron Man is a Guardian if we do have Honorary Guardian on him, which is an upgrade. So if we can attach Honorary Guardian onto Iron Man with Guardians of the Galaxy out, actually I don't believe that we have this response quite yet, but this combo here makes him a Guardian, and then you can upgrade Iron Man with his ability of reducing the cost of each upgrade you play on him by 1 and draw a card each time you play Guardians of the Galaxy. So these are the 3 main allies that we're going to want to have on the table. This is our entire ally lineup at this point, and these are the 3 that can rotate in and out of that 4th slot, and that 4th slot is going to be opened up here with Nowhere. So Nowhere is another support that says after you play a Guardian ally, you can exhaust Nowhere and draw a card. So more card draw is great because this deck is actually 50 cards. It was one of those I don't know. I built out the deck. I got it where I wanted it. It was like 46, and I was like, heck, let's just go 50. And so here we are. So we're gonna get a lot of card draw. Hopefully, once we get Guardians of the Galaxy and Nowhere on the table. And this also increases our ally slot by 1, which is the main reason it is in the deck. So 3 main allies, which are going to be our main Voltron targets here, and then a couple of allies that can rotate in and out, chump block in a pinch. Ideally, we're going to be wanting to use Venom's ability or Venom's defense as well as his pistols to defend for 4, so that we do not take any damage, or we don't take any damage on our allies. We need to get some of these onto the table. We've got a call for backup that's going to help us get any of these higher cost allies onto the table. Honestly, probably easiest would be Yondu. And there's a reason for that. I'm going to show you here in a second. We can get Iron Man and this combo out a little bit easier. But if we put Iron Man onto the table without an Honorary Guardian, we're actually in a situation we don't really want to be in, because then we've turned off Guardians of the Galaxy. If we bottom deck all 3 of our Honorary Guardians, we're in this situation where it's like, what's going on? Like, it's going to be challenging. That being said, it's not the end of the world. If you already have Yondu, I would definitely call for backup on Iron Man so that we could get Iron Man onto the table and then hopefully just get an Honorary Guardian on him soon. And so, call for backup. I'm typically going to be targeting Yondu. Or if I have if I have an Honorary Guardian in hand, I'll target Iron Man. But that can help us get one of these onto the table. And we are actually running 1 copy of Make the Call. There's a couple of reasons why we're running 1 copy of Make the Call. On Flash's setup, he has to discard cards. And so if we discard an Iron Man, we discard a Yondu, we discard somebody that we want to be putting into play early, Make the Call could help. There is a situation where we discard both of them. That's fine. But also, Gamora can target Make the Call. And so if we're discarding cards, we could discard potentially an Iron Man that we really want. But Gamora may hit Make the Call, in which case we're effectively getting an Iron Man in our hand. And so the 1 copy of Make the Call is really here for Gamora, but can be a backup for if we discard one of our critical allies during our setup process. But it's really an event that we can hit with Gamora. But I didn't want to put too many in there, because I'd rather hit Venom's events rather than Make the Call most of the game. But early game, it is nice to have that out. Now, the reason I said that we may not call for backup Iron Man, because we have an easier way to get Honorary Guardian and Iron Man, and that is Suit Up. Now, Suit Up can be a little tricky here, because you can get yourself into a situation where you cannot pay for Suit Up and then Iron Man. It's a read the situation. There are going to be times where you want to play Suit Up and maybe just hold Iron Man to the next hand. And so you're losing a little bit of efficiency, but then you do get Iron Man onto the table. But Suit Up is an alter ego action where you can search your deck and discard pile for a ally and an upgrade that can go on that ally. So if we discard a Iron Man in our opening setup and we really want Iron Man, we have an option to Suit Up to grab Iron Man and Honorary Guardian. The other trick here is once we have Iron Man onto the table, Suit Up can grab any of the allies and then any of the other upgrades that we have in the deck, which then can be played on Iron Man. You do not have to play the upgrade that you grab with Major Victory on Major Victory. You can play it on Iron Man, then draw the card. You get the Guardians of the Galaxy trigger. So there's a fun little sequencing here with Suit Up, and I think Suit Up made Venom work with Guardians of the Galaxy much better than he used to. Also, Venom likes to be an alter ego, one, because alter ego is nice, but we also have Project Rebirth, which is one of the better one-cost hero supports in the game, I think. As an alter ego action, you can heal 3 damage from Venom. Venom's going to be taking damage because of his symbiotic bond ability, but also just because you're probably going to be defending to try and protect Iron Man, and so healing the damage or drawing a card. So every trip down, without exhausting Venom, you can heal 6 or your +2 cards, and that pays for itself pretty quickly. And so these being alter ego actions does not concern me too much, especially because we do have Confuse in Venom's kit, which we're going to be pulling with Gamora. So that is kind of how you get set up. We did have a build support That is how you kind of get set up. I was one card short. Build supports will target Guardians of the Galaxy if it's not out. If Guardians of the Galaxy is out, it'll target Nowhere. If Nowhere is out, it'll target Project Rebirth. If Project Rebirth is out, build support, if you're playing solo, goes out at the end of the game within your deck. It's really just a second copy of Guardians of the Galaxy, and that's kind of what it's meant to be. So that is the build. So let's talk about what we are building into. We are actually running 3 copies of Honorary Guardian. The first one is going to go on Iron Man. Second one is going to go on Venom. And the reason that we want it on Venom is because Honorary Guardian gives you that Guardian trait. So when we flip down to Alter Ego, we now still have the Guardian trait. So with the Guardian trait, it does not turn off Guardians of the Galaxy. We can play upgrades on our allies while we're in Alter Ego, still hitting this trigger. And so that's nice. It gives us 1 health. And so that's also nice. The third copy is and can be for anybody. It's a 0 cost card, which can cycle itself, which is why it is in here for consistency, but also throw it on Gamora. We get 1 more activation out of Gamora, which is great. But an Honorary Guardian on Gamora gets you 1 card draw from Guardians of the Galaxy, plus 1 more activation, which is another card draw from Gamora. So nice little synergy there when it comes to 0 cost upgrades. First one, Iron Man. Second one, Venom. Third one, whoever. It can also be targeted for suit up. We've got 2 copies of Laser Blaster. This can go on a Guardian ally, which is all of our allies. Gives you +1 attack and overkill. The one that I would avoid putting it on is Rocket. We already get overkill. Might as well go on Yondu. It's probably the best, or Iron Man is probably the second. We've got Comms Implant. So we can attach this to a Guardian ally. Attached, we get +1 thwart and +1 hit point. Love it. That actually does work pretty well for Yondu here. The +1 hit point is going to be nice. Yondu only has 2 health. And so if you do find yourself in a situation where you need to use that to thwart, which we probably will if we are exhausted going into the hero phase because we've defended, and because we are flipping down quite frequently, we may not have as much threat under control as possible. So Yondu could be using his thwart. This gives him a 3 thwart, so it gets much easier to stomach using that health for the thwart. And then +1 hit point, so now you get even more activations. Gamora also works really well with this because, yes, we are getting more activations out of Gamora, which is awesome. We've got 3 copies of Sidearm. Voltron decks hate Retaliate. Voltron decks get shredded by Retaliate because you want to activate your Voltrons as many times as possible, and Retaliate is going to reduce the amount of times they can activate very fast. And so Sidearm giving you a ranged attack so you ignore the Retaliate is huge. It also gives you the +1 attack, which is really nice. But really, this is in here to tech against the Retaliate situation. If you know what you're going into, if you know the villain that you're going up against, say it's Mutagen Formula or someone with a lot of minions, I would swap one of these sidearms for another copy of Laser Blaster. The overkill in a Ultron is very, very beneficial, whereas an overkill in a Thanos, when you're looking at 2 minions in the deck, not as beneficial. And so I feel like this works better for most villains, and this is how I'm building the deck. But know that you can swap one of these sidearms for a Laser Blaster and go 3-2 over here if you are running against a high minion scenario. We've got Inspired attached to an ally, +1 thwart, +1 attack. Need I say more? And then we've got Reinforced Suit, which is going to give 2 hit points to our attached allies. The cool thing about this deck, this is set up to be successful in solo, but it is not only a solo deck. It can work in multiplayer. And so we are going to be using this to potentially pass out upgrades to other characters. So if we have a Drax player at the table, Reinforced Suit is going to go so well on Mantis, right? Just keep that healing. So when you're playing in a multiplayer setting, I would say that it is nice to play upgrades on yourself. It is really good, but also this deck can work by passing these upgrades out to critical allies in other players' decks to make sure that they get the activations out of those allies and even more activations out of those allies. And based on, and remember what we said earlier in the video, if we have Guardians of the Galaxy and I play Reinforced Suit on Mantis, I still get to draw a card. If I play it on Captain America, I still get to draw a card. It does not have to be a Guardian. You just have to only have Guardians. And I have to, I've read that like 9 times because it just feels incorrect. But that is how it is written. So these can be upgrades that you play on other players' allies. We don't want to play allies as many times. Once we have these allies onto the table, we really do not want to get rid of them, especially if we have Voltron them up. Nothing is sadder than needing to chump block with a Yondu that has 5 attachments on him. That is so much money and so many resources, and just you've sunk so much into Yondu at that point. It hurts. So we are going to be running a Rally the Troops. So heal 2 damage from each ally whenever you defeat this. Rally the Troops with a Yondu with a comms implant in true solo. This can Yondu can thwart down Rally the Troops immediately. It actually does work out. I am 99% sure it works out in this way. Please let me know if it does not. That Yondu, even if he has 1 health left, can thwart this down for 3, heal 2, then take his consequential. I am 99% sure that is the way that the sequencing works. And so Rally the Troops is going to heal everybody on the table, not just your allies either. It can be everything else. So this is leaning a little bit more into that support role that the deck is offering. And then we've got the doubles. And I don't actually remember what I called it, so let me know what you think you would call this deck in the comments below. But I'm pretty excited to try it out. I'm going to be trying it on tomorrow's stream. If you're watching this on the release day, I'm releasing this on Monday. I'm going to be playing this deck on Tuesday's Marvel Champion stream to see how it goes. But I really enjoyed trying to make Guardians of the Galaxy work without using the Iron Man Star-Lord